Hi, Apes. This is Mrs. Hubbard. I'm going to be talking about Chapter 9, which is water resources. Hello again, Apes. This is Mrs. Hubbard. This is Chapter 9, water resources. If you look at this chart right here, you're going to see that most of the water on the Earth is not usable, and we only have about 3% fresh water. Of that 3%, most of it's in ice and glaciers, so it's not usable. We have just a little tiny bit of water on the Earth that's in lakes and streams. You have a tiny 0.03% in the atmosphere, and most of the water that we can use is below ground water in wells. Not all of that is usable though, so all the water on the Earth is not very usable. So you need to know what an aquifer is. It's a small space found underground where water is found, and the water might be pure, might not be pure. What happens is water falls down from precipitation, rain and snow, and it goes through rock and small spaces on the surface of the Earth, and then it gets down to a place where there's more larger particles like gravel and stuff like that, and that's where water collects. As it goes through the soil, it gets nice and cleaned up, which is really great for us, and then we can drill a hole into that aquifer and then grab the water out of it. An unconfined aquifer has just soil on top of it, but a confined aquifer has impermeable rock or clay that keeps it harder for us to get, so we actually have to drill through that, and when we get there sometimes the water's pressurized, and then we can make an artesian well that flows up to our level, and we can use it really easily. So know the difference between unconfined and confined aquifers. Here's some examples. The artesian well is drilled into a confined aquifer, and there's lots of pressure on that water, and so as soon as you drill a hole in there, it's like popping open a balloon, and the water just flows back up under pressure up to the surface of the Earth. The recharge area is where water comes down from the sky and goes on surface soil, and then it slowly trickles down into the aquifer, and it gets cleaned up that way. So our Earth has an amazing system of figuring out how to get dirty water clean again. So groundwater is any water that's underground. The water table is the level that aquifer has water in it. So it's the highest point closest to the surface where water is contained. Recharge, I said, is where water is percolated back into the aquifer, so the aquifer is recharged. And springs are a place where there's a aquifer that gets close to the surface, and it actually is able to let water flow out under pressure. What we do is we use a lot of water, especially in California, and we use so much water that actually we cause something called the cone of depression, where we are drilling wells, and we're using so much water that we're actually lowering the water table, so we're making a cone of depression. When we use water close to the ocean, when we drill wells close to the ocean and we have our water tables at that place, if we drill them down too far, then something has to fill that void, and so salt water from the ocean can go and get into that aquifer, and that's called saltwater intrusion. And we're doing that a lot near coastal areas. And it's not a good thing, because then a lot of salt is in your aquifer, and you can't use the well anymore. Here's the different lakes, the biggest lakes on the surface of the Earth, and as you can see, the Caspian Sea is the hugest one, and then we have quite a few in America. The Great Lakes are really, really big lakes. They have a lot of volume and a lot of surface area. Some of these are caused, and we'll we'll talk about later about how why they're caused, why we have different lakes and why we have such large lakes. There's 3 types of productivity of a lake. Eutrophic is the best. You have lots of natural chemicals like nitrogen and phosphorus, so that the living cycles can work. So living things can work there, and they have enough nutrients. Mesotrophic is a moderate level of productivity, and alloeotrophic is low nutrients, and you have kind of a dead lake. We use levees in California a lot, and so you drive all over the levees when you're going along the delta, and it's a way to keep water contained, and so it will not flood us. And we also use well, we don't use dikes, but close to the ocean they use dikes, and near Louisiana they have dikes, and that's what failed when we had that big flood down there. But it keeps ocean water from flooding. So levees and dikes are used by humans to keep rivers from flooding, and oceans from flooding into areas that we want to live in. A dam is a barrier that keeps rivers in one area, and we use them a lot to generate electricity. So that's why most humans make dams nowadays, is to generate electricity, hydroelectric power. The reservoir is the water that's behind the dam. Because we set up these dams, we mess with fish that normally, for millions of years, have decided to go to a particular area to spawn. So to fix the problem of putting up a dam and not letting the fish go back where they need to go, we've added fish ladders that allow salmon to go back where they want to go, and other fish that live part of their lives in fresh and part of their lives in salt water. So there's a new fish ladder in Marsh Creek that they've put in so that the salmon can get back up river. Aqueducts are something we have in California, and it's a big problem politically, because some people want them, some people don't want them. We have aqueducts that take water from Northern California to Southern California. There's another way to get fresh water by desalination. So if you live near ocean water, you can take the water and distill it, and the pure water will be boiled off, and you can use that pure water, or you can use something called reverse osmosis, which is a little plastic membrane that allows the water to go through, but not the salts. So those are other ways to get water, but they are pretty they take a lot of money to build those and to use those. So they're not used unless you really, really need water, and all you have is salt water. So what we use water for is obviously agriculture. That's especially in California, we use it a lot. California's a really dry state, but we use a lot of water for agriculture. And some people think that's not a good idea. But California has really wonderful climate, and in the Central Valley has great soil. So that's why we're doing ag in California. So there's different ways to irrigate, and the best way is drip irrigation, but it doesn't make any sense in a big giant field of corn. So usually we use furrow irrigation in Brentwood and the Central Valley. So there's different ways to irrigate. Furrow has the most evaporation, so you get the least amount of water to your plants. Furrow and flood, and then spray is better and drip is better as well. Hydroponic is something they do indoors, so they're doing that a lot for tomatoes and fruits and vegetables that people want to eat. Industry is the second largest user of water, so we have tons of industries along the Delta, the PG&E plant, and USS POSCO and Dow Chemical that use water, and that's the second largest user of water worldwide. Households are the third, and you can look and see who uses the most water. We use quite a bit. I didn't realize Australia uses so much water, but they have a pretty dry area, so they probably use theirs for irrigation around their houses. And look at and see which is the biggest water use for indoors. So we use mostly indoors. Our indoor usage is for toilet flushing. They're thinking maybe it would be better if everybody had owned all of our water, so that if you own a particular amount of water, that you're going to use it and conserve it in a better way. So they're thinking in the future of having some ways of having water ownership. And there's been increasingly more political tension over water usage, especially in arid areas like Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, things like that. So they're thinking, hey, there must be a better way to deal with our water so that we don't have so much conflict about it. So that's the end of chapter 9. I hope you enjoyed. This is a pretty short chapter, and it should be a pretty easy chapter for you guys. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.